Welcome to the Real View podcast, where Ohio Realtors connect you to innovators and influencers, keeping you with the real view of real estate. Whether you're a broker, agent, first-time homebuyer, industry leader, or just happen to stumble upon our podcast today, you can expect to hear tips, tools, tricks, interesting information, and so much more from the experts in Ohio's real estate game. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the Real View podcast. I'm your host, Allison Wiley. Joining me is my co-host, Carrie R. Blaster. And with us today are our special guests, Heather Haas and Kyle Oberlin, who are the leaders of this year's Ohio Realtors Young Professionals Committee. So thank you guys both for being here with me today. We're really happy to have you on.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
All right, you guys, I know you've probably heard a couple podcasts at this point. As you know, the name of the podcast is The Real View, and we have a signature question that we like to ask all of our guests. So Heather, since you are chair this year, you get the honor of going first. The question is, what is the best view that you have ever had?
The best view I feel like I have ever had is out in Colorado in the Rocky Mountains. I love the mountains, and it's probably one of the best views near Glenwood Springs.
Perfect. Beautiful. You, Kyle, what say you?
Honestly, my best view that I've had just happened this last November. I was on a hiking trip out west. I was at Zion and did a hike called Angel's Landing. It was pretty sketchy, to be honest. You know, I felt like at any moment I could have, probably fallen off the side of that. And I think that kind of added to the view, because once you get to the top and, you're nice and high up there, you're like, wow, this is amazing.
That's awesome. We love this question because it's different for everybody. And we kind of get to go on journeys with our guests when they tell us about their best views. So thank you for sharing that. Like Allison said, you guys are chair and co-chair of the Ohio Realtors Young Professional Network Committee this year. Before we get into that committee and what it is and what its goals are, I would love to hear from you, just your background. So we'll start again with you, Heather. How long have you been in real estate? What area of the state do you practice? And what led you to want to be a practitioner?
So this is actually a really fun story. I have been in real estate going on 5 years in May. I service the Dayton, Ohio region. And how I got into real estate, I always get groans for this, is HGTV.
I love it.
I always get the eye roll or something like that. But basically, I was kind of at a life-changing point. I was always in retail, and I took a year off to kind of sit back, help my mom. She had some property in Tennessee she needed me to take care of. And one day we're watching Property Brothers, and she's like, I bet you could do that. And I'm like, I bet I could. And so I just started researching being a realtor. I knew I was moving back to Ohio and how to get my Ohio real estate license. I took about 2 or 3 months of research and then just jumped in and did it. And then right before I got licensed, actually, I met the Property Brothers and I had a discussion with them.
What? Okay, we need that story too.
So that was fun. I was actually in Ohio, staying with a friend, getting my real estate license, because this is before you could do it online. And they were at a real estate show in Cleveland in March. So almost 5 years ago to this month. And I wanted to go, and I was planning on going. And then I found out you had to get tickets to meet them. You didn't have to get tickets to the event. You could still go see them. But to meet them, you had to be entered into some lottery. And I was like, well, that's, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to drive clear across the state to do that. So I went back to Tennessee. And I was on Instagram, and they posted on their Instagram that they were in Tennessee promoting their album. They sing too. And so they were promoting their song, and they were going to be at this place in Nashville called Goo Goo Clusters. It was a 2-hour drive from me. And I kind of just looked at my mom and I'm like, hey, you want to go to this meet and greet? So me and Charlie drove 2 hours, and Charlie's my daughter, drove 2 hours to Goo Goo Clusters. And it was it wasn't heavily promoted. So there weren't as many people there. It was probably 100, maybe 150 people there. We were seventh in line. And then when they came out, which by the way, they are tall, dark, and handsome, and they are very tall. They came out and they talked to everybody. They made sure they gave their time, and walked through the line before the actual meet and greet. And like, Drew gave me real estate advice and like, and everything. And then they met like us, we did our pictures. And then afterwards they sat with us at the restaurant.
My gosh. So you got even like extra time too on the end of that. How cool. What an awesome experience. I feel like you need to like reach out to them or something and like let them know, I credit you guys for my real estate career. I feel like they would like really appreciate hearing that. I don't know.
They'll talk on Instagram and stuff like that because we went and saw a show that they did about 2 years later. They were sharing like my daughter's picture and like talking to her and like everything. So they're super friendly. Like they're really great guys. I'm always very defensive of people who like try to make fun of them. I'm like, no, I'm like, they're really good.
That's a great story. Kyle, I don't know if I'd want to follow that.
I don't. That was really good. Mine was quite different, to be honest. So not nearly as interesting. I'd say it was just kind of a series of luck and just common sense, I guess. So the first part of luck was when I was 19. It was when the market crashed. And I, of course, being naive, had no idea that the market was crashed. I just saw that houses were cheap. And so I got my first house at 19. It was a HUD home. I paid $20,000 for it. And then from there, just started using some of the equity to acquire rental properties. Eventually, I had enough rental properties where I was kind of thinking, this might be something I'd like to do full time. And, I was in college still at the time and graduated from Kent State as a marketing major with a minor in business and worked a marketing job right out of college. And just I wasn't crazy about it. The whole 9 to 5, just it seemed like it wasn't for me. And I was also a high school track coach at the time. I did that for about 10 years. It was just really hard for me to leave work, go to the track, coach, go back to work, try to catch up. I had to kiss up to my boss all the time to even be allowed to leave. It became frustrating, and so I figured, what, I need to do something that I could be a little bit more flexible with my time and, just have a little bit of freedom. And so I talked with one of my good friends about it, and he actually jumped into it before me. I kind of hesitated and he did it. And then about a year and a half later, I just kind of learned from his mistakes and did everything he told me not to do. And then just kind of jumped into it. So here I am.
That's a great story. So what area of the state do you practice in and how long have you been practicing?
Yeah, so I'm in the Akron-Canton area. And this is actually my 5th year as well. I just had my, I guess you could say 5-year anniversary, if that's the thing. Just probably last month, I think it was at the beginning of 2016 when I was licensed.
So I'm a little curious though, like what led you to want to buy that first property at 19? Like there had to be somebody in your life that was communicating to you the importance of owning property, because I certainly was not thinking about buying cheap houses when I was 19.
Surprisingly not. So I actually saved up that $20,000 because I wanted to buy a crotch rocket. I got my motorcycle temps and I saved that money. I kind of just worked all through high school and then I actually lost my job. And so I was like, shoot, it's just a college job. It wasn't a big deal. But so I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't spend this money right away. Maybe I should, sit on it just in case I have some trouble finding a new job and whatnot. And then my temps expired. And so I was just like, shoot, now I have to go renew my motorcycle temps. It's just so frustrating. And then I just started, kind of playing around online and seeing how cheap everything was. I was like, wow, I feel like I would much rather have a house than a crotch rocket. So maybe I'll go that route.
That's awesome. Love it.
Okay, so on to Young Professionals Network here in Ohio. A lot of our listeners maybe don't know what it means to be a young professional, like how old do you have to be? I think I've probably aged out. I'm headed into my 40s, so probably not considered a young professional anymore. But maybe if one of you could just give some background on like what it means to be a young professional and what your committee does. I know there's different, YPN is the acronym, so we should probably tell people that's what we're going to start using, different YP or YPN groups around the state. So if you could maybe just fill us in on what it means to be a YPN here in Ohio.
So I think, right off the bat, to address what you said at the beginning, I don't think you can age out of YPN. It's one of those things where I kind of wish that the acronym wasn't YPN, to be honest, because you can be young in the industry and not necessarily be young. This is an industry that people get in at all ages. And so even though I'm 31, I'm probably one of the youngest at my association. And so, I don't think you could really base it off of a particular age or specific age. I think it's just, if you're young to the industry or young period, I think those are kind of interchangeable. But really, kind of what we do. So I'm a member. We actually just changed our name. We're the Stark Trumbull Association of Realtors now. But what we do is we just try to focus on local efforts. We are basically a branch of obviously the state YPN, but we kind of focus at the local level. So we try to support some local businesses. We do local fundraisers. Surprisingly, there's a lot of people that are involved at my association that run charities. And so we've been able to partner with them in the last couple of years and kind of, do fundraisers and whatnot and just kind of bring awareness. And then also I think it's important for YPN to kind of just help introduce the professionalism standard that we as agents should carry, because you get a lot of people that just join and I think their focus is probably in the wrong place. They're just trying to make as much money as they can and not really focus on the professional standards part of it. So, I think being involved with the YPN really helps kind of portray that to some of these newer people that are joining the industry.
I love that you bring that up because I feel like there is maybe like a stigma or a stereotype out there that quote unquote younger agents, maybe don't bring the same professionalism that maybe some more seasoned agents bring. So maybe talk a little bit about that. Is that kind of a common stereotype out there and how are you working to debunk that?
Yeah, no, that is a pretty common stereotype. And I look at everything like through the years, like, at one point everybody was young, like a certain age, and like you were once a young professional in your organization, you brought new ideas and whatever was happening that year. And that's just exactly what's happening with us is that we're just bringing new, fresh ideas. And Kyle's and I's generation, we're a little bit more laid back. We're all about those, relationships, and we're all about being out there and being our authentic selves instead of being just kind of held back and everything. And we want to be comfortable because like our clients want to be comfortable as well. And we want to relate to our clients. And it's just this new energy. And I think that's what, the young professional's brain is, just a new energy and a new sense of professionalism. And we can still be professional. Professional is just mainly how you present yourself and how you treat others and how you're acting ethical and everything like that.
What led you guys as young professionals in the, in this industry to seek out the YPN network at Ohio or even maybe in your respective markets? Like, how did you hear about them and how did you first get involved?
For me personally, I was actually, I was down at the Ohio Realtors Convention. It was, I want to say maybe 4 years ago. It was whenever it was in Columbus, because we sponsored like the YPN event that they do, I want to say on like Monday night. And so I was kind of encouraged to go just on the brokerage level. And while I was there, Heather Zimro, which I think a lot of you probably know, she told me about Leadership Academy, and she had just gone through it. And so she kind of pushed me to join the Leadership Academy stuff. And so I did and went through it the next year. I want to say it was 2018. And just had a really good time. It kind of introduced me to leadership and kind of the importance of being involved in the industry. And, I felt YPN was probably the best fit for me at the time. And even though I'm now, doing a little bit more like being on the board of directors and whatnot, I still try to be as involved as I can with YPN because that was kind of what started me on that path. And it's just a fun time. I just really like what YPN stands for.
To kind of echo off of that, like YPN is usually like your introduction into more things involved at the board. Like it's a great committee to get involved in to where you're not going to be like super overwhelmed with having to know specific things, like having to know all this about RPAC, having to know like all this about professional standards, having to know like all these like really, really finite details. And YPN just kind of takes a little bit of that and it like gets you that taste and all while being like young in the business, and it kind of gets your foot in the door so you can start networking with other, people. And usually like once you're in YPN, that leads to bigger and bigger positions. So like being on the board of directors and being a part of NAR, OAR, and, your local organization and everything, and just, getting well known.
Allison, are you interested in politics?
Yes, Carrie, I am.
Well, have I got the thing for you. Ohio Realtors Legislative Week kicks off Monday, April 26th.
Tell me more about it. What activities are going on? Where is it? How much does it cost?
Well, first of all, it's free, which is awesome. Second of all, it's virtual, so anyone can attend from anywhere. Just make sure you get signed up. Registration ends April 22nd at 5 p.m., and you can go to ohiorealtors.org to get registered today.
That was going to be my next question. So I love that you kind of led in with that. Do you think, having this experience in this group and making the connection you've made here and having the exposure to Ohio Realtors, what are your plans for the future? Do you think you'll stay involved? Have you had a good experience? I'd love to hear, or maybe you haven't even thought about it yet, and that's totally okay too. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about that.
I don't think I would ever be allowed to leave. So how I got involved in YPN was I was kind of just voluntold. I was obviously like, if you've met me, if you follow me on social media, even if you haven't met me, I'm a character. I am a very loud personality. I'm very energetic. So they needed people like that at the board. And at that time, we had Andrew Sims, who was our CEO, and he was new to the board. And he just needed like that people to carry his message as well. And just somebody to bring that like energy and stuff like that. So I was one of the people, like we were just revitalizing our chapter. Andrew was very passionate about YPN. He wanted to bring in some characters. Some people, I'm a character, so I call everybody characters.
I love it.
So he identified people to help lead the way. And so like me and a few other people just started the network. And then by 2018, we won Ohio YPN of the Year. In 2019, we won National Association of Realtors YPN of the Year for mid-sized board. So
wow, awesome. Nice job.
Yeah. So yeah, we were just, I almost forgot the question now. Like I was just like humble brag. No,
just about, so having so much success in this group and chairing this group now this year, you said, I don't think they're going to let me leave. So, I'd love to hear your hopes and, maybe what you want to get involved with in the future.
So I serve on the National Association of Realtors, YPN, as well now. I'm on probably about 10 other committees at least. And I have chaired a few local committees now. I've chaired 2 committees, both RPAC Fundraising and YPN. And I am vice chair for professional development this year. So I've been really involved in that end. WCR keeps trying to recruit me, and I keep telling them no, which is a big deal for me.
What's WCR, Heather? Can you just let our listeners know in case we have some non-realtor listeners today?
So this is the Women's Council of Realtors, and I absolutely love them. I go to their events all the time. But I know, and I've told them this, I know as soon as I join, they are going to put me in a leadership position, and I won't say no because I love it. Like, it's like addicting to me. So, but I plan to hopefully be a part of my board of directors, and I'm already an Ohio director. I got appointed there to and everything, which is a big deal, like to be appointed. Like I was actually chosen to be an Ohio director. And so I just love being in leadership. It gives me a sense of purpose outside of just, being a realtor.
Love that. And Kyle, obviously you're going to be around with us for a little while as you will take over as chair next year. So what about you? What are you thinking as far as the future?
Yeah, you know what? To be honest, I have not put a ton of thought into it, so I feel like it's a nonstop battle of trying not to spread myself too thin, because I still need to have time for my business too. So, I do the board of directors for my local association. I'm also a state director as well. And then I stepped down from our local chair of YPN. We have, it's in really good hands now, the girl that took it over. And so I just kind of act as a liaison almost and, just kind of help them understand the processes and everything. And, beyond that, I don't, if I get tapped for something, I'm typically more than happy to help. I'm like Heather, I have a hard time saying no. So it's one of those things that if I'm tapped, I typically help out. But, for me, I don't want to do too much also, because I want to make sure the stuff I am committed to, I have the time and the full focus to kind of put towards it.
Definitely.
It's kind of funny, actually, about the no thing, because like everybody knows I couldn't say no when I was in Dayton Leadership Academy. That was like a thing that Mary Lou was like, we need to work on this, Heather. And last year I was at a committee and they're like, oh, we're going to put Heather in a position for this. And I looked at them and I'm like, no. And like the room, there were like 25 people that were like shocked. And like one of my friends who was in Leadership Academy, she's like in the background going, yeah, like you go, girl.
That's really funny you said that because Mary Lou was at the Ohio Leadership Academy also and had the exact same conversation with us.
Yeah, it's definitely,
we all love her.
Yeah, it's a good balance between, being involved and keeping yourself busy and wanting to make an impact and versus, what can I let go of that, so I can keep myself mentally sane, make time for my business and, making sure I'm not spreading myself too thin. Definitely a fine line to walk there. So I want to hear about all of the wonderful things that you all have planned for 2021. What are some of the things you're hoping to achieve this year as chair and co-chair? I know the planning has already happened and is well underway for some of the things that are going to take place this year, but tell us a little bit about those plans and what you're hoping to accomplish this year.
So I can be highly ambitious sometimes. I remember emailing Kyle and I'm like, I know you don't know me too well, but I'm an idea person. And you might have to bring me down sometimes. Like, I will be on cloud nine, like, oh my gosh, let's go solve world hunger. And like, you might have to be like, okay, let's start with local hunger first and go from there.
I know. I always love getting emails from Heather and she's like, okay, I'm sorry I'm emailing you guys again. I'm sorry I'm emailing you guys again. And I'm like, I love it. Cause I'm like, I love that enthusiasm. So that's so funny that, you're explaining that because you've, sent emails to us before too. And it's awesome.
Well, I have ADHD too, so I think that's where the ideas come from, like my own little like colorful world. So they just kind of pop, and if I don't send those emails, I'll forget, and it'll be like 2 weeks later. Like, oh, I forgot. I need to send out that email. So yeah, but some of the ideas like I really have been wanting to work on is obviously education. A couple years ago, I approached Task and I was like, I really want to be Ohio YPN chair. This is my plan. This is like, I had a plan of when I was going to be YPN chair. And I actually gave him a full plan, like list by list. I'm like, these are my ideas. I really want to do this. And he's like, okay, Heather, like, you better bring home like state YPN of the year from NAR. I'm like, okay, no pressure. So like, one of my things was calling Steph at the beginning of the year and mainly emailing and just saying, hey, what are your goals for Ohio Realtors and how can YPN best help you aside from the stuff that we may have planned? So he kind of just told me his goals this year. And so a lot of our planning was based around some of those ideas while maintaining like the stuff that YPN does as well. So one of the things that I really wanted to do was an education series, a lot like Dayton Realtors YPN did, which was called YPN University. But YPN University was focused a lot on technology, and I wanted Ohio Realtors to kind of like do a broader spectrum. So maybe not just technology. Maybe we would go over professional standards, and maybe we would cover RPAC and like really get into like people learning the nitty gritty of these things. I'm all about collaboration as well and making partnerships with other committees. So I was, texting like Rebecca Donatelli, like, how can we help RPAC out? I would, message professional development, like, hey, are there anything that you want us to do? I'm also on convention committee. And I would, say, what do you want YPN to do? Like, and actually, I didn't even ask. I said, YPN's doing this. Like, it's funny, Tim, who is the, I can never say his last name, Kokenauer? Kokenauer? Yeah, I got it right.
Kokenauer,
yeah.
maybe? Yeah, Kokenauer, I think, yeah.
I'm just going to call him Coke. Oh, I'm going to call him Coco. He's going to hate it. But he just gave me a call. But I just was like, hey, I'm doing this. And I'm like, I'm going to push for it. So he's like, okay, you go, girl. So that was like a big push. I'm really big into education. I'm actually even the training director with my brokerage. I love education. And the other thing was community service, because we can't really get together. It's unrealistic I think we have 13 YPNs throughout the state. It's unrealistic for all of us to get together every month or every other month or, do a lot of these big events. So it has to be either digital or something we can do. And so we're planning a YPN Care Day in June. And that's just going to be like every YPN kind of just pick a charity that they personally care about that's local to them. I didn't want it to be limiting or anything. I wanted it to be something that they cared about and just go out and do good in the community. Like as a whole, we're doing this. And then in December, we do kind of do the same thing throughout the month. like Dayton Realtors collects toys for tots. And Kyle, you can speak about what Stark County does.
Yeah, we did basically bags for the blessing. We did that this last kind of like holiday season to where we collect toiletries and stuff and bags and purses and give them out to it's basically a local charity that gives them out to the underprivileged women, and we do backpacks for men.
So it's just like, collaborating and making sure like we just all have like the same vision. And another big focus of Ohio YPN is that we're just like the support of the other YPN chairs and like, how can we help you? And that was like a big thing on our first meeting. What are you guys struggling with? How can we help you? Do you need some ideas? And they're just like, yes. So I came up with like a whole list of ideas and sent it out. And I'm like, here's some things, and hopefully we'll be able to get back together. And I've been hopping on like different YPN meetings across the state. I was going to try to advocate for a new YPN, I believe in Muskingum County, where the Hitchcocks live. I've been on meetings about that, about talking to their board, about starting a YPN and giving them ideas of what YPN can do. I even volunteered myself to do a polar bear plunge.
Wait. Where is that going to take place, Heather? Could you live stream this?
I wish. So just Cleveland YPN, Akron Cleveland YPN, and Akron Cleveland Association, they're doing a 5K in August. Sign up for it. It's going to be fun. But John Luke, their chair, was running a campaign. If they had 75 people signed up by March 15th or something like that he would do a polar bear plunge in Lake Erie. And I'm from that area. I'm from Ashtabula, Ohio. So I'm used to polar bear plunges. And then one day I wake up and I call him and it's like 9 a.m. And I'm like, I want to do a polar bear plunge. And I was like, can we set this? And it never really came to fruition. But I just want, everybody to know I'm there to support you.
Definitely. Well, sounds like you guys have some really cool things ahead. I'm excited to see where this year takes us. I'm sure these events are going to be so successful. And, what a great example, too, of realtors giving back to their communities with those community days that you mentioned. So I love to hear that you guys are planning on that and see that as an important direction where you want to take this network. And we're lucky to have you all as leaders, hopefully in the near future and into the far future as well. So thank you both for your leadership and your time here today. What would you tell young professionals that may be interested in getting involved or joining their local networks? What would you say to them?
I would tell them to do it. It's a great step to get involved in the association and just kind of learn a lot about the industry that I think is not really communicated very well through obviously real estate classes or on the brokerage level. I think there's a lot to this industry. It's very complex. There's a lot of moving pieces and moving parts. And until you get involved, you really don't know what you don't know. And YPN's a great stepping stone into that.
I would agree with everything Kyle just said. It's just great to have people that relate to you, because this business can be really draining. And it's great to have people that are going through the same things that, you would be going through. And that was a big part of me sticking with YPN.
Awesome. So YPs who may be listening, who are out there, get involved, reach out to Kyle or Heather. We'll make sure to get you guys connected to all these wonderful resources that we just talked about today. Heather, Kyle, thank you both for joining me today. Thank you for your leadership. We're excited to see what this year brings.
Thank you. It's great seeing you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for listening to The Real View. That wraps up today's episode. You can keep up with the latest on the podcast at ohiorealtors.org/therealview and on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Have questions, comments, or suggestions? We want to hear from you. Email us at podcast@ohiorealtors.org. We'll see you next time.
This has been a Humble Pod production. Stay humble.